So y'all, if you aren't in the Zoom room, we want to get you in the Zoom room because I can see your faces and I can bring you on. I can bring you on live. We can have a conversation and do it that way. Whereas I will pull your chats or your chats and your questions from everywhere else if needed, but I'm gonna respond to the Zoom room first, and I'm gonna just mute and just do that. But here's the thing. So no, you're not, Drew. Drew, you're not. I'm on YouTube too. You're not. He says, Drew says, so basically I'm dead to you because I'm on Instagram. No, you're not. The idea behind this is this. I may turn this into a weekly show. So just so you know, we're testing it out, but thinking about doing a weekly show. We're going to do it for a number of months. I've got some scheduled out into April. I think I have so far, and we'll put some more on the schedule. But right now it's Mondays at 8 a.m. It's a place for me to talk to you about things that I see going on in the market, the economy, investments, things to be aware of. But it's also a place, more importantly, for me to answer your questions, for you to sit back and say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Should I be putting it in my 401k? Should I, IRA? What, just anything having to do with investing, wealth, and money. I want to have that conversation with you. The thing to realize is that this is the CYA. You and I don't have a client relationship. Anything we talk about is going to be for information and education only. Before you make any investing decisions or any financial decisions, it's important that you seek specific advice from a professional that knows all of your circumstances, which I don't. All right. So, but that doesn't mean that we can't, one, have some fun, two, give you some tools, and three, make sure that you're pointed in the right direction. I don't have agendas for these, and I don't have anything to sell you. Okay. So this is us just having a conversation. I'm not an investment salesperson. I'm not an insurance salesperson. So I'm not selling anything other than you on your dreams. It's for us to have a conversation and do it that way. This is what this is about. It's about you. It's about changing your financial destiny, changing your trajectory when it comes to your money, and making sure that you are no longer a passenger or in the back seat, that you are in the driver's seat, that you've got your hands on the wheel and you know specifically what you're doing. And anyone that's advising you is sitting as navigators on the ride, but they are not taking control. You are not outsourcing your financial destiny. We can't do that because no one's going to love your money and your financial future better than you. And so that's the reason that I kind of look at it and do it this way. I talk about it in my upcoming book, Building Your Money Machine. But the idea here is, if I can educate you, empower you, and equip you, then you are doing well. So that's what we're doing here. I've got some questions that did come in from the hotline. So for those of you that don't know, I have a special website that says askmelnow.com. You can leave me a question. You can either send it in text, you can send it in voice. And what I do is we accumulate those, and then we'll bring them on to the show to make sure that they get answered. So with that, I'm just looking at the market. So I have a screen up here that allows me to, so I've got the charts of the market and whatever's going on. It looks like everything is, I see a lot of red except Tesla's green. So we're just kind of treading water, but we're at highs right now. Just so you know, we're at all-time highs in the market for the most part. Does it mean we're going to come back? I can tell you that we will get a pullback on the market, but I can't tell you how deep, how long, and when. Uh, Market cycle, they will always go up and down. Investing, um, investing, yeah, it is, Drew. Investing, at least the way we talk about it, is a long-term game. Okay. If we're looking at short-term investing, then we're really looking at trading. We're trading momentum in the market. We're trading things that are going on in short duration. That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is long-term wealth creation that is sustainable. Realizing that, those of you on everything except Instagram will be able to see this, but um, um, the reality is that realizing that your wealth creation follows a curve like this. Okay, so it's a hockey stick curve, and there's this piece here that I often talk about, is what I call the wealth flat line. And that wealth flat line, this is the time where you're investing and you're putting money away. You're sitting back and say, I'm putting money away. I'm putting money away. Just like Mel says, keep putting money away, keep putting money away. And I keep putting money into the 401k, the IRAs, my brokerage accounts. I keep investing. And here you are 5-6 years into it. And you go, God, I only made $67. This Mel's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. There's no way this doesn't work. Okay. Here's the challenge. You are in what I call the flat line. The flat line is that space and time where we are not getting money momentum. What you need to think about that flat line zone is, here's what's happening. Think about a spring, and you're compressing the 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 spring. And then when you release it, it jumps. When you release it, it goes. And when you release it, we end up in this space up here, which is what I call the acceleration zone. Okay, that's the acceleration zone. So you've moved up the hockey stick curve. This is the time that your money has momentum. This is the time where your money starts to earn more on it than you do from your efforts. The challenge is you have to eat up the flat line, that flat zone. And there's only one thing that eats up the flat line. One thing. It's a 4-letter word. Time. It's the only thing that eats this up. And so the reality is that we have to get into the investing game, and we have to eat up the flatline zone. And the only thing that's going to allow us to do that is time. And this is why when I talk about this, it's about sitting back saying, I'm not as concerned about how much you start putting towards your future as much as you are actually creating the behavior and the habit to put something towards your future. Wealth creation is going to be more about your behaviors, your decisions, and your habits than it is about the money you have. There's a millionaire study, 10,000 millionaires that studied, in 79%, almost 8 out of 10 were first generation millionaires, meaning that it wasn't gifted to them, they didn't win it, it wasn't inherited, it wasn't anything, it was created. 8 out of 10, that means 8 out of 10 of us can create it on our own in our lifetime. Okay? We just need to stay. Now, here's the other statistic. Over one third of those never made more than $100,000 in their career, a year in their career. So none of it was people that were making, I mean, not saying none of it, but when you look at the averages, many of them made it on something less than millions of dollars of earnings. How did they do that? The way they did it is consistent, disciplined investing over a period of time, long term. So you might run something up. You might be able to catch like a stock, like Nvidia has been on fire right now. Okay. Meta, Facebook has been on fire. You might catch those, but that is not the foundation of your investing. The foundation of your investing is long term. And the reason we're long term is we need to get past that flatline zone so we can get in the acceleration zone. When you're in the acceleration zone, this is where the money machine's built. This is where your money starts to work harder for you than you ever did for it. It perpetuates. I will make more from my money machine than I will from my active activities. It's partly because I'm not working as hard, but I am right now because of the book. So you get a chance to do that. And what you're doing is you're gifting your future some time back by investing the time now. So hopefully that makes sense. That's what we're talking about here. That's where my focus is with all of you, is to help you on this journey, to make sure that you make the right choices and that you are protected moving forward. So, all right, let me look at some questions because I see some coming in. It's not about getting rich overnight. It's about creating enough consistent plays that pay off over a period of time. Factor underscore is on Instagram, and he or she, I don't know, it says, it's not about getting rich overnight. It's about creating enough consistent plays that pay off over a period of time. Absolutely. We can win the game by hitting a bunch of singles and doubles instead of trying to hit for the fences every single time. The problem is that when we swing for the fences over and over again, there's a tendency to also miss the ball, strike out a couple times, So what we want to do is just stay consistently in the game. Okay. Let's just see. I see some questions coming in. Speaking of investing, do you know anything about acorns? You mean like the acorns from the tree or the acorn investment company? I do. The question is, what question around acorns is it? I know a bit about it, and I follow. I don't have an acorns account. It's a separate type of account that is meant for. What they do is they round numbers and they put it into an investment account for you over time. So says, I have a question. Tom says, my 2 children are now in their 20s, recent college graduates. What advice can I give them to start building wealth? Tom, this is a great question. So first things first, in their early 20s, recent college grads, hopefully they don't have a ton of college debt or student loan debt. Knowing you, I'm guessing they don't. So here's the thing. One of the most important things that we can understand is that time is the greatest wealth creation lever. The tendency in our 20s is to sit back and say, I got time. I don't need to do this. I can wait. They can't wait, because watch what happens. Every dollar that you invest, it at 20 years old will turn into $88 to $90 by the time you're 65. If I wait a decade and wait till 30, that cuts in half. Okay? The time is huge. Now, they may not be able to put a lot away when they start, but when we talk about the wealth priority ladder, and I talk about this in the book, if they're going to get a job and they're going to work for someone, and that someone has a 401k that has a match, the first thing they absolutely must do is make sure that they get 100% of the match. 100% free money. Get it on the table, get it dialed in, make sure that they're capturing that first, because it's going to do 2 things. It's going to put them in the game to invest. 1, 2, they're going to capture some free matching money from the employer. So it's almost like doubling up. It's 100% return if we do it right, depending what's going on. Beyond that, then we want to continue their investing, depending on where they're at. What I might tell them to do is go to put money into a Roth, because they're going to be in low income tax brackets, and you have all that tax-free growth. And it comes out tax-free at the when it's available to them. So the first decision is that they're going to be investors no matter how much they make. The second is to make sure that they're going to take and match, get the match. Now, the other thing they need to think about is they're in their 20s, and there's something coming down the pipe. It's their 30s. The 30s are affectionately known as the messy middle. This is when life starts to shift for them. This is when they start getting into relationships, marriages, kids, houses, and all of a sudden their financial life gets really, really messy. So setting things up properly in their 20s will help them move through the messy middle, their 30s, so they don't get themselves in trouble in doing that. So the other thing that they need to think about is the liquidity. If they're still living at home or something, then what they can do is make sure that they have the match. They are maximizing the match, and they're not going deep into credit card debt, and they're putting money into a high yield savings account so they have liquidity to carry themselves into any kind of messes that come into play. That's probably the first things that I would do. And when it comes to investing on that in the 401ks and all that stuff, I would just put it into some sort of broad-based index fund that if they want to be easy about it, instead of trying to build a 2 or 3 or 4 fund portfolio like we talk about, just have them go into a target date, low cost target date fund. If they're in their 20s, give it 40 years. So we're at 2024. So give it like a 2065 fund. And it's not there permanently. It's simply there till they get their legs under them and they get more understanding so they can navigate it more directly themselves. But at least what they don't want to do, and the mistake that some people do, is they put money, they fund the account. There's 2 steps to investing to your accounts. The first is putting the money in. The second is putting the money to work. And I've seen people say, well, I put my money, I've invested in an IRA. An IRA is not an investment. An IRA is an account. Think about it this way. The IRA, the 401k, the Roth, that's the clothes you're putting on for the party, but you haven't gone to the party yet. The only time you go to the party is when you actually decide what you're going to invest in. Otherwise, it's sitting in cash, not earning you anything. And if you look at what has happened, I've seen some people that 30 years down the road, they realize, oh my God, it's been sitting in a money market for 30 years. They lost 30 years of growth. It was horrible. Great question, Tom. Hopefully that helps. I also have, Tom, there is also an episode that I did on teen investing on the show. So have them go listen to that episode. There's 2 episodes that they probably could listen to. One is the interview with my son, Jeremy. And the other one is teen investing. So, yeah. Great question. Was just wondering if it's good. Okay. So Missy's asking about Acorns, was just wondering if it's a good one to go with. So here's the thing. Acorns is not a bad company at all. The question is why? What do you want from them? What are you trying to get from? I'm one that because Acorns has a monthly fee to it. It's not a lot, but I'd rather go into a discount broker of a Vanguard, a Schwab. Most of my money is at Schwab or Fidelity, and know that I'm not paying a monthly fee just to have an account there. I have access to low cost, low fee investments there. Yeah, maybe the interface for the user experience is different than Acorns, but I think that you could balance it. It's a great company if you want to. I just don't. I don't want the monthly fees. So I don't have it. Like I said, most of my personal investing and the stuff that I do outside of my team is at Schwab. And the rest of our investments and everything are at Fidelity. I have access to both of them on the apps. I can do my trading and stuff on the apps, or my investing on the apps. And I'm not doing a ton of trading and investing anyways. And if I'm doing it, it's usually on the desktop. So I don't use those kinds of functions, but that's what I would say. As I would look at some of the discount brokers and see what is, kind of draw that, at the risk of being called an accountant, which I am, draw that T account of pros and cons. What are the goods of Acorns versus these other ones? Um, and I think the biggest thing for me is I'm not a fan of fees, as much as possible. And I want to be able to have control, and I want to make sure that, and it's not just the fees they charge. You want to make sure that they have access to low expense types of investments too. So so you want to make sure that you can get low fee, low expense investments. So no load, low load funds, which you can at Vanguard, Schwab, and Fidelity. My investment agent is with Edward Jones, and I have a Roth. They invest in what areas I request. Is that what you were talking about versus money market? Yes. So Melissa, they're getting it invested for you. If it is in a long-term fund, and if it's in a retirement fund, there's really no reason for it to be sitting in cash, because we're not looking to cash it out unless you're a couple of years away from retirement. Then you're going to be in a much more conservative portfolio. We want every dollar working for us. Now, do I have money in cash in my retirement accounts? Yes, I do. Here's why. We are on a dollar cost averaging buying program where we are buying lots. We're buying equal amounts every single month. So we're constantly buying in the process. And so we have cash in there. So what ends up happening with me is that I have, full disclosure, I have a 401k, I have a profit sharing, I have a defined benefit plan. So I have 3 different pension plans that I'm running. We fund all of them. When we fund all of them, then we slowly invest those over time and do it that way. So inevitably there is some cash that is there on an ongoing basis, and we slowly put it to work over time. Sometimes if we see a big dip in the market, we'll push a lot into the market at that time. But by and large, we're just on a regular buying program as we do that. So Facebook user says, I don't know who this person is because it says Facebook user. You have to give permission for Restream to post your name. But so that means you're in one of my groups. That's okay. I'm contemplating a property purchase to build out the retreat side of my business. What would you want a client to consider before jumping into something like this? Oh my gosh, this is a great question. It's full of stuff. So this is the kind of question that I wish you were on Zoom so I could bring you on and we could have some coaching and some challenge, some conversation around it. But here's the thing. You have your business and you have a retreat side of your business. I want you to look at this. Oh, it's Kayla Scott. All right. So here's the thing. I love this. So here's the thing that I want you to consider. This girl, she's brilliant. I want you to look at the property investments separate from the retreat side of the business for a moment. I want the retreat side of the business to make sense without the property. So here's how you would do it. If you were to rent a property, and it might be your property, but if you were to rent the property and you looked at the retreat side of the business and you're renting the property, does the retreat side of the business make sense? If it does, now let's look at the property side of it and say, okay, does the property itself, buying the property, make sense from a financial standpoint? Because here's what I imagine if you were going to do it is the property wouldn't be bought inside the business. The property would be bought separate from the business. The business would pay rent to it because now you can transfer money out of the business to another entity for rents. And you would do market rents to do that. Now, does the property then make money? Yeah, it may. The question, though, is let's assume, Caitlin, that at some point you don't want to run retreats there. Is there a different use for the property that could also allow it to cash flow absent your business? I want to make it make sense, hopefully financially, with or without your operations being the vehicle that makes it make sense. If that makes sense. So my son was looking at a property that he was thinking of Airbnb-ing it. and I said to him, I said, here's how we want to look at this. Does it make sense on an Airbnb analysis, meaning short-term rentals? Because one of the problems we have around here is that they are they're eliminating short-term rentals. They're trying to. So if they were to eliminate short-term rentals, does it make sense on a long-term rental? Okay. If it makes sense on a short-term rental and makes sense on a long-term rental, then ask yourself, does it make sense from a flipping standpoint? If I was going to buy it, hold it, and then sell it, can we make money? So I'm going to look at it on 3 alternatives. That way I know that if something goes different, I'm okay. And it's the same thing I think that for you, Caitlin, is to start to look at it from that perspective. Say, first, does the retreat part of the business make sense with it? Then now we look at the property and say, okay, property is going to be able to get rents from the business. Okay, it's right pocket, left pocket. I get it, but I wanted to look at it. Now, if we chose not to do retreats there anymore, or we're going to use it for retreats outside, other people using it for retreats, what does that look like? And does it make sense? Then here's the other side of this. I want you to start to really think about the liability around having a retreat center and property where you have bodies and people there all the time. Doesn't mean you don't do it. It just means that what you want to do is make sure that you shield everything else that you have away from any kind of liability. And the way you do that is by putting it in a separate entity potentially and making sure that you have the right insurances in place so we don't have an issue. If you're intending to use it as a retreat center for someone else, in other words, I want to do a retreat there and I say, Caitlin, I want to rent the place and I want it for 3 days and everything, and you want to use it, that's fine. The one requirement you're going to want to do is that if anyone outside of your company is renting it, they also have to come with liability insurance also on top of it in order for them to rent. In fact, when my wife and I got married, we were up at a winery up in Napa at the top of the hill. And for us to even have our wedding up there, we actually had to carry our own liability insurance. They had their own, but in order for us to have the wedding up there, we had to have a $2.5 million policy for it. They're not overly expensive, but just the biggest thing I'm thinking about is there's 2 sides of this coin. Is one, does the investment make sense? Let's assume that it makes sense. Then how do we protect the investment and how do we protect Caitlin? And the way we do that is making sure that we separate the liabilities by putting it in separate entities and that we insure some of the other liability away. So hopefully I answer the questions. If there's more, and Caitlin, if we ever want to talk about it, you let me know. We'll make sure that we get it done. Great question. That was exactly the question I had. I tend to get paid in large chunks once or twice a year. I was wondering about investing it all at once. So Dana Gibbs is saying she gets paid in large chunks once or twice a year. How should she invest that? So here's the thing. There is data that shows there's 2 ways to invest. Lump sum investing. In other words, I get a big lump sum and I just invest in the market. Okay. Or you get a big lump sum and you invest it over time. Here's the thing. There's this really, really well set Murphy's Law. Inevitably, if you put it all in the market at one time, the market will go down. It just seems like that's the way it is. Okay. So even though that's the case, statistically, what it shows, especially in an upward trending market, putting lump sum in usually ends up with bigger returns. The problem is the psychological burden if the market decides to correct right after you invest it. So what we tend to do is people are much more comfortable on the long term doing it in increments on a monthly basis. And it doesn't mean that you do a lot, but let's say that you have an extra $50,000 that you want to invest. I would take it and take it over 5 to 10 months and just evenly just invest it. The market's up, market's down. It doesn't matter We just keep making the investment. That's what my team is doing with us, is we know regularly we're just making the investment every month. And the market is up, the market's down. So I'm buying some shares at a higher price, I'm buying some shares at a lower price. But in the end, I got a lower average cost to get into the investments. And I'm psychologically not feeling burdened by, oh, I bought at the high and it went down and now I gotta correct it and all that stuff. So most people will do a dollar cost averaging type of thing, but we don't do it over the long term, in the sense of I wouldn't go much more than 10 months on it and do it that way. And if you're getting 2 lump sums a year, you might think about doing it over 4 or 5 months, depending on the dollar amounts, and just stay consistent. Jewel, yeah, Murphy's Law sets in. That little devil comes showing up. Oh, other questions? Anything else? Let me see. I want to see it. I've got some questions. Some questions that came in on the hotline. So this one's an interesting question. Do you need to say, so one of the things we tell people is we want you saving 20 to 25% of your income. And this person's asking the question, saying, I have a they have a pension. They have a pension, but they also have a mandatory retirement age of 56. So the question is, do they?
It won't connect to my.
Oh, let's make sure that everyone's muted. Let me make sure that everyone's Sylvia. I'm going to mute you. So this person has a mandatory retirement age of 56 with a pension and no early withdrawal fees. So the question is, do you need to save more than 25%? Why do we do this? Why do we say save 25%? Here's what we're balancing. It's not about the percentage. It's about the lifestyle that you're trying to fund. We call it the affluent lifestyle, the affluent vision. And the thing that we need to realize is these days, people are living longer. If you're going to retire at 56, there's a possibility you got 4 decades more. So the money that you create, the money that you invest, the nest egg, the machine that you build might have to last 4 decades. And so when we start to retire early, it requires us to look at it from the perspective of not just, hey, I want to retire early, but now that the amount that I build has to last longer. And so this is the problem with a lot of the folks that got involved in the FIRE movement, what is it? Financial independence, retire early. They all put their money away, I mean, literally they were trying to save 40, 50, 60% of their money in an effort to try and retire at 35 years old, 38 years old, 40 years old. So they want to retire really early. Now, it's a great goal. We just need to understand that when we decide that we're going to come away from the workforce, we have such a long runway of life left. There's going to be lots of ups and downs. And if we have not built it enough to have a margin of error, what happens if we have a 20% market correction during that time frame? So point being is that I will say I'd rather over invest and over save early and allow it to do the heavy lifting, and find out that as I get into my later years that I have way more money than I needed, than to sit back and go, oh crap, I don't. Let me go knock on my kid's door and get on the couch. So we're still, even I'll be 63 this year, and we're still putting 20, 25% away. It's a habit. and we just keep doing it, and we just keep doing it. And if we think that and now the other thing for me is my wife is, no judgment here, my wife is 12 years younger than me. But that also means that she in effect has at least a decade more of life beyond me. And so I have to think about, hey, God forbid I'm gone, she's still a decade younger. So that I need to plan for those occurrences too. And so I'm reluctant to take the foot off the gas pedal on the investing, the savings, until I know that I have enough room for margin of error. So if the market corrects or I last till 110, we're okay. And so when you talk about trying to retire, maybe it's a forced retirement at 56, you want to be careful, but you also, it doesn't go past me that you have a pension. If the pension is giving you lifetime income, and it is depending on that percentage of income, is it 70% of your normal income? Is it 100%? You may be okay. It gives you lifetime income. Now, here's the question is, what are the survivor benefits? So does the pension stop when you pass away, or does it pass to your spouse? Like my mom is getting a pension from my dad, and my dad's been passed away 13 years ago. So you got to look at all of those things. The best thing for someone like this that is sitting back saying, I got a pension, I'm thinking about 56, I gotta is for us to sit back, or someone to sit back and say, let's do an actual plan. Let's assume you stop at 56. What is the pension coming in? When does your Social Security kick in, if it does? Okay. What else do you have? How much do you need? And plan it backwards. I think you always begin with the end in mind. When we talk about building a financial plan, we always look at the lifestyle we want, figure out what the price tag is, build it towards that, not from the current income state. Doesn't matter how much you're making this year, next year, or over your lifetime. My question is, what kind of life do you want, and how do we fund that? So let's figure out what that life is, and let's back into what we need to create to make that life a possibility. Great question. Other questions? Anything else coming up? Let's see. I am 55. I am recently divorced. I have 600,000 in retirement. I'm going to retire at 60. I have 350,000 in a high yield savings account. I want a house, but I have cheap rent in a high cost of living area. What should I be doing with my money? Should I invest it? This is a great question. So here's the question. This is an interesting question. 55, recently divorced. I'm sorry about that. But you have some money in retirement, and you have cash in an account. You want to buy a house, but you're in a low rent situation. I'm going to tell you, and this might go against the grain. Find your joy today. I'll get to that in a second. This may go against the grain, and I did an episode on my show of this. Don't feel compelled to buy a home. I'm going to just say it. That I know that there's a lot of pressure sometimes to buy a home, but I want you to think about it and make sure that you're making the decision for the right reasons. Look, I own a home. I love ownership, but I also want to make sure that I'm making the right decision for me. We made this decision to buy this home for us, not because it's the American dream or anything else. A home buying decision is a long-term decision. You can't get in and out of it very quickly, very easily, without friction, without costs, and everything around it. So if we're going to make a decision to buy a home, it needs to be a 7 to 10 year decision. And otherwise, renting's probably the way to go. And if you're paying low rent in a high cost of living area, take the additional money and invest that to build. Now, I have a calculator. It's called a home rent calculator, home versus rent calculator. If you go, if you ping me, I'll get it to you. I've got a resource page that's getting put up with all the different calculators and all the different free resources, but it's not up yet. It'll be up in the next 3-4 weeks, but we'll get it. But then you can put it in there. The difference is this. Here's the mistake. You have low rent, and what happens is say low rent, then they go spend the rest. If you really want to make sense of it, if while you're paying low rent, you take the difference between the low rent and what you would normally put for housing and invest it. So you're building wealth because you've got low rent. Otherwise, you're just spending the money. The other thing that I would consider doing is that if there's an impending home purchase, something in the next 3 to 4 years, you don't want to put the money in the market because it's going to go up and down, and you don't want to be in that type of situation. So I would leave it in a high yield savings account. You can get 5.5% there. It's guaranteed, it's insured, and you know what you're going to get on it if you're talking about using the money in the short duration. If you're not looking at buying a home for another decade, then I might consider investing it. Okay. All right. So let me look at, this is on Instagram. What resources do you recommend for someone just starting to learn about investing? Here's the thing. This is listen, Siri's going to answer the question for you. She just said she found something on the web. So let me give you this. I have a resource that I'm putting out, and I'm going to potentially be able to give it to you for free, but it's not going to come out for another couple of weeks on investing simplified and all that stuff. But in the meantime, there are books, and I just did an episode on the 25 top books that I've read on investing, and in any of those books, David Bach's books, Jack Bogle's books on index investing, Bogleheads. There's so many really good books out there. Here's what I'm going to warn you against. Find your joy today. Is what I'm going to warn you against is getting caught up in some sort of meme, some sort of trend, or some sort of emotional play. There are people out there, and I just watched one the other day, that this person was literally telling people, forget paying $25,000 for a Camry, go get yourself a $200,000 Audi R8. He says that's a wealth transfer. It's a wealth transfer. Yeah, it is a wealth transfer. It's a transfer to the dealership. Are you out of your mind? You don't buy and all of a sudden he's proud. He thinks this is a great investment. He said, I made $30,000 off of my R8 in 2 years. Yeah, probably because you didn't drive it. So it sat in the garage, but the upkeep on an R8 is probably $8,000 a year. Did you really make that money? Is that really a good investment? Is this a smart long-term play? No. But there's people out there that are putting that kind of advice out there, and it's a mistake. So what I want you to do, anyone, is to make sure that you're using time-tested, road-tested principles and processes to invest over time. Now, I'm not saying things don't shift over time, but there are principles that work. And they work in down markets, they work in up markets, they work in stagnant markets. They work all the time. And that's where we want to play. Because if we're trying to play what is the zeitgeist or the trend or the fad of the moment, if we miss the timing on it, we're going to get hurt. Think about GameStop. They ran that stock up to $450 a share. It had no business being there because this company is almost defunct. The people that bought it at $450 a share are hurting right now because it's down at like in the teens. So we don't follow news. We don't follow emotions. We don't follow trends. We don't follow fads. We follow principles that work no matter what. And it may, here's the other way to look at it. If your investing is an adrenaline rush, go ride roller coasters instead. Okay? Your investing should not be an adrenaline rush. It should be like watching paint dry. Okay? But we'll make sure if you want, we'll make sure that I get you that list of books. If you ping me, we'll make sure we get you the list of books. I've got it all in a PDF that you can, and I have it broken down for money management, investing, getting out of debt. I have it broken down in those ways. So we'll make sure that we have that for you. Okay. Great questions. All right. Anything more? Let me just check the other socials. Jenny Jones. No, I don't look 63. And my wife says I don't act it. She says I act 12. I said, I tell her that my day is not complete until she rolls her eyes at me and says, are you ever going to grow up? Answer's the same every day. Every time she asks it, no. You're right, Jenny. I got to take care of my wife. She's taking care of me. She has been such a saint, a gift. My journey through cancer would have never been as graceful as it was. Not that it was graceful, but if it wasn't for her by my side, she fought the battle just as much as me. And she has supported me every step of the way. So I'm a lucky dude. Don't tell her, but I think I got the better end of this deal. So cool. Other questions? Anything else coming up for y'all? All right. Is this format helpful for y'all? Because I want to keep doing it. I want to be, I'm thinking about making this a weekly show where you can come on. Those that want to come on onto Zoom, we can have a conversation. I get to see your faces, which is really cool, but we have the social channels also and everything. So I enjoy it. This is fun for me to be able to help and to guide and to know that, look, there's no ulterior motive. There's nothing, there's no hidden agenda. It's just, hey, we're just going to do a weekly show. We're going to have conversations and help some people out. So. Awesome. All right, y'all. All right. So spread the word then. Let's spread the word. Let's build this thing. Next Monday, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we will be back here. If you're on the social channels and you want to get on Zoom, just go to melabraham.com/coffee. You'll get a chance to register so you can get the Zoom link, and you're being in this private Zoom room with me where we can have a conversation more directly. I can bring you on. Is it better to file a tax return early or file an extension? Lee Min, hopefully I pronounced that right. Oh, good. So here's the deal. If you're going to get a refund, file it early, get the money. If you have to pay, you don't. There's no reason to do if you're remember that when you file an extension for a tax return, it is only an extension of time to file. It is not an extension of time to pay. So you will always have to have the taxes paid, estimated and paid by that April deadline for your individual tax returns. There's all this talk about, if you file an extension, it raises your audit, risk and all that. Not true. The fact is that I look at it and say, look, if you're going to get a refund, get the taxes filed, get the money as quickly as possible so you can do that. And if you're going to get a refund, let's just be clear. If you're getting a refund from the government, from taxes, it is not a gift. It's a repayment of the overpayment that you sent them too early. In other words, you had withheld your taxes. Now, I'd rather you have a refund than a big bill to pay. Okay? So I would file it early if I had the ability to get a refund. Plus, it gets the statute of limitations running, so the time period for audit expires sooner. If you owe money, then file it at the deadline at April 15th. Or if you're going to extend it, you can extend it, but you still need to pay the taxes at April 15th. So if you can get it filed, I would just file it and call it a day. Get it over with. Okay. Now my returns go on extension pretty much every year, primarily not because of payment or any of that stuff. It's because I don't have all the K1s and all the stuff. Our returns are a little more complicated, so I don't have a choice. I have to put them on extension. If I had the ability to file it, then I would file it. Now, here's another reason though to do this. A little more nuanced, but I have the ability to fund my defined benefit plan up to the point that I file my tax returns. So I could literally take the deduction in 2023, file my tax returns in, say, September of 2024, and I have up until September 2024 to put money into the defined benefit account. So you might extend it for purposes of funding your retirement accounts if you're in that position too. Melinda is asking, she's on Instagram and she is asking, where is the best place to put $200 a month for my 16 and 19-year-old son? This is a really interesting question. Your 19-year-old son is, in most states, and I don't know what state you're in, considered an adult. So if you're going to put money away for them and you put it in their name, your 19-year-old is going to have full control of it. And so if you're putting it away for a specific purpose, you may not be able to control that purpose, because once we transfer it, it's theirs. Depending on what you're trying to do with the money for them, you might be able to do it. Now, when I did this for my son, I actually put it into a joint account where I had signature authority of it. So, but it wasn't. What happened is it didn't really take it out of my estate. So it still gave me control of it. At one point, we had a trust. We don't have it anymore because he's 33. But we had a trust that dictated how it was done. So long-term investment for when they buy a house or even retirement. Melinda, this is a great idea. So first things first, I'm going to ask you, are you fully funding your own retirement first? Let's take care of you first, kids second, okay? Because they're 16 and 19, they have a lot of working years ahead of them, and they can do those things. My thinking on this is I would keep it in my name and make sure that I'm investing it and building it. If you choose to, you can gift it over to them. Right now, you can gift $18,000 a year to them tax-free. But once they have it, they can do what they want with it. If you're still trying to control it, you're gonna either have to put it in trust or you're gonna have to keep it in your name somehow. That's the challenge. So the concern is the control of the money, not the transfer of the money. Once it's transferred, you lose control. If they were a minor, then you would have time. Your 16-year-old's still a minor, but you only have a couple of years of that. You would have time, and you could do it that way. So you may have to look at some nuanced things with a trust if you want to keep control of it. If they're really responsible, then you can do it that way. Here's the other thing you could do, and this is something I did with Jeremy. If they have jobs, most likely their jobs don't have like a 401k or anything like that. But because they have earned income, they potentially have earned income, they could put money into an IRA. Now, they won't be able to get it till 59 and a half, but imagine this for a moment, that they decide to put money into a Roth IRA. They don't get a tax deduction, but they don't have to pay tax on it because they're going to be in a low tax bracket. And you decide to match it. So you take the $200, because you can put $7,000 into a Roth IRA right now, as long as they've earned more than $7,000, you can put up to their earned income. And so you could put $200 away. That's $2,000, $2,400 into a Roth IRA for them, a custodial Roth IRA. They can't really touch it, but it's going to be there for retirement. So you could match it. When Jeremy was young, he's starting at, when he was, I started paying him when he was 10. I would match the money that he would put into a Roth and do that. So you could do it that way too. All right. Let's see. I got a couple more. Is there a good reason? Liz is asking, is there a good reason to delay pension or Social Security payments once eligible? Liz, this is a nuanced question. There are reasons to do it, but it's a mathematical calculation. So every decision you make with your finances and your money needs to be based in a plan, not an isolated decision. By delaying pension plan payments or delaying Social Security payments, how does it change the plan? How does it impact us? So one of the things, like in my plan, we have it set that we're not going to pull Social Security till 70 years old. Okay. But let's say that the plan was built on me taking Social Security at 63. And then I decide to delay it. Well, now the plan may not work because now the cash that I expected at 63 from Social Security isn't there. So it becomes a mathematical calculation, and it's looking at how much of an increase in the Social Security and the pension will I experience by delaying it compared to, this sounds morbid, but what's the length of my life? I mean, is that increase over the term of my life going to surpass the foregoing of it for a period of years? If that makes sense, because if I'm making $2,000 if I take it now, but I'm going to make $2,500 if I take it, 8 years from now, I forego 8 years of the $2,000. But I have 2,500. I'm going to get 2,500. So that $500 increment may or may not make sense.
So, follow-on question, if you can.
I can.
On the additional pension I'm talking about, they tell me the only difference is actuarial life really not growing as shorter time frame.
But so are you going to get the same number no matter when you take it?
No, it'll be a higher number because it's shorter time frame.
But
yeah, it's
but
the same total.
So let's, am I understanding correctly? Let's just say that the total of your lifetime is 500,000. The question is whether you're going to take it over 20 years or 10 years.
Right.
Then to me,
That's it.
It doesn't make any difference. Then I would sit back and say, if the total lump sum I'm going to get over time is the same, I would rather get it sooner, start investing and take control of it, than let it sit in their coffers. Yeah. Because then
It's a lifetime, so it's an actuarial guess.
Yeah.
While you live.
Yeah.
What they're calculating change. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks, Liz. It's a great question. Last question. Let's see. Melissa says, my mama had life insurance and my sisters and I were beneficiaries. Now the company is trying to make us create an estate, even though she had nothing else. Is this how it's supposed to go? Melissa, are you on? Can you unmute? You want to unmute for a moment? So tell me more. Did your mom passed away?
Yeah, she died in December.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Thank you. We had a great relationship. I'm looking forward to seeing her again.
Yeah, there you go.
But on the paperwork we have, it states my sisters and I as beneficiaries.
Mm-hmm.
I have a paperwork that says that.
Yeah.
And when I talked with the life insurance company, they sent a letter saying that the estate is the beneficiary now. I don't know how that happened.
Well, the beneficiaries would have been stated on the policy when the policy was set up. And if you have unless she turned around it doesn't make sense. What state are you in?
Vermont.
Okay. So it doesn't make sense. If you have stated beneficiaries, they should just pay out directly to the beneficiary based on the allocation percentages there. If it's equal, it's equal. If it's percentage, it's percentage. There is no need for it to be an estate. And so because there really isn't anything that's an estate. It's a trust. You're either if the beneficiary was the trust, then that's fine. But it doesn't make sense what they mean by estate because you have direct beneficiaries stated in the policy.
Yeah. So I asked them if I could what they have.
What?
I said no. They said, send us what you have.
No. You tell them that they need to provide you the beneficiary designation statements, and if not, you will actually have an attorney file a bad faith claim. They don't like the term bad faith. They're not going to play hardball. And it pisses me off because here you are trying to do the right thing. You're mourning the loss of your mother, and then they want to play games with you. So I have no patience for it, and I would sit back and say no. Okay, I'll seek legal counsel and we'll file a bad faith claim against you for dragging this on and the emotional distress.
Okay.
Now,
Thank you.
They will typically go, hold on for a second, we'll send that to you.
I did try and say, could I talk to the claims department that made that decision? Then I was going to ask them for a copy of it.
Yeah.
They said no. There's talk to them. Thank you.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. So what's it? You don't mind to tell me who's the insurance company?
I don't General Life.
Okay, so it's a big company. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I would say no. This is what we have, and this is the way it needs to play out. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Sorry you're going through that. It shouldn't be that way. All right, y'all. Hey, next week, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will be here. Lots of things going on this week, things that I'll share with you as we start to unfold some things and everything. So stay with me on the socials, on this stuff, and I'm here for you. If there's anything I can do for you, reach out and let's make it happen. All right. Can't wait to see you all next week. And let's spread the word. Let people know about this. All right. Talk soon. Cheers.